Barack Hussein Obama. He's been called an elitist in the past few days. Why is that? An elitist, a snob, someone who is not in touch with what's going on the ground with the average American, who's not in touch with what happened in many of the small communities after NAFTA went into force, and many of the corporations moved out of our country and took the jobs with them to Mexico. Barack claims that he does not support this, when in actuality he supports this and something much greater. And yet the media keeps letting him slide on these things. Why? Because our media in this country is controlled by the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations. Obama was asked recently in a question and answer session whether he was a member or not, and he stated he didn't know if he was a member or not, and then went on to joke about how he didn't have a membership card or he didn't know any secret handshake. Well, the truth is that he is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and his wife is a secretary in that organization. The purpose of the Council on Foreign Relations is to end the sovereignty of this country, to bring about a new world order and a one world government. And yet, in all this, Obama has lied and covered this up and denied all of these things. You recall when his reverend was brought into question because of his remarks, the first response was that he had never heard any remarks like this while he was sitting in the pews of that church. 2 days later, he gave a speech on race in which he admitted that on many occasions that he had heard these things coming from Pastor Wright. But then he went on to lecture our nation and point fingers at his white grandmother and Geraldine Ferraro and white racism in this country and point a finger at everyone else except himself. Then he went on, again 2 days after that, and said that he did not think that his church, and used that word church with some quotations around it, because it is not a Christian church. The church, as you can see even on its own website, admits to the fact that Jeremiah Wright's teachings come from the black theology which was developed in the 1960s by one James Cone. And James Cone teaches that God is black and that God hates the white race. And they are told that any God that does not hate the white race should be killed by the black people. So this is the theology that is taught by this Christian church. It is strange that, although it's been rumored that Barack Obama might in fact be a closet Muslim, why would he join a Christian church? Well, that's the secret that the media doesn't want you to understand, is that the church really isn't Christian, that it has very close ties to the Nation of Islam. This is why Jeremiah Wright was able to give a Lifetime Achievement Award to Louis Farrakhan. This is why Jeremiah Wright was printing Hamas manifestos in the church bulletins and newsletters, an organization that we all know is a terrorist organization, an organization which kills Christians. Don't you think that that's a bit controversial for a Christian church to be doing? Reprinting Hamas manifestos in their newsletters and bulletins? Now, in his recent remarks, there was another firestorm because Barack Obama said that the white man who don't want to work, and talked about the men that are clinging to guns and their religion. And then he put a spin on it because he didn't realize that his remarks were being recorded and were going to be made public in less than a week. And so he changed his story and apologized, said that he misspoke. And then he twisted it again and said that he was right all along in making these remarks because people all across this country are bitter because they've lost their jobs, and the current administration and the administrations in the past have done nothing about it. Well, Barack keeps telling us that he doesn't support NAFTA when indeed it turns out that he does, because there was a memo that was found that he did send to the Canadian government telling them that he was politically positioning himself. In other words, he was lying to the American people to get their vote, when in fact he does support NAFTA. And not only this, but he supports NAFTA on steroids. As I said, the CFR is trying to bring about the end of this country. And President Bush and Dick Cheney, as members of that, have gone as far as they dare go with this. President Bush signed an agreement with Mexico and Canada, which is known as the Security and Prosperity Partnership. This is the groundwork for the North American Union. This will be the end of our country as we know it. The purpose of this is to bring about one big socialist trading bloc with the rest of the world. The United States, Mexico, and Canada will be all united as one socialist trading bloc. This is the security and prosperity which Barack Obama keeps talking about, that he wants to bring about in this nation, the security and prosperity partnership between the three countries. This will end the United States as we know it. Now we're told that Barack Obama claims that he knows what's going on in Pennsylvania and Mexico and Illinois and California. He knows what's going on. He's in touch with the people. Well, we've got people that have a hard time in this country feeding their children. We've got people on our streets that are starving. But what did he do? But he has introduced into Congress the Global Poverty Act. Please do a web search on that. That is S2433. S2433 is all that you have to type up and hit your browser, and you will have numerous sites that will tell you about this bill that Barack Hussein Obama has introduced. And what he is proposing is that we, as a nation, give 0.7% of our gross national product, not to the people of the United States to end poverty and starvation here, but to give it to the people of Africa. We're talking about over $845 billion over the next 13 years, and this is something that he wishes to give to the people of Africa. And he claims to be in touch with the people in this country, the people that have lost their jobs. This man truly is an elitist. And now, just yesterday, Obama is criticizing Jimmy Carter for wanting to meet with Hamas. And rightfully so, because they are not a state, they are a terrorist organization. The same terrorist organization whose speeches are reprinted by Obama's church. And isn't this what Obama said he would do? To meet with our enemies and try and get them to partnership with us? Truly, this man is not in touch with reality. Thanks for listening.